What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so we got Hitler incarnate over here. This is what the corporate press is melting down, if you will, because check this out, y'all. Kennedy says panel will examine childhood vaccine schedule after promising not to change it. After, like, I could just imagine whoever wrote this article just said that he promised not to change it. This bastard. You gotta love these people, man. Check it out. Let's get into it. To earn the vote he needed to become the nation's top health official, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. made special promise to a U.S. senator he would not change the nation's current vaccination schedule. Now, once again, this is all based upon the assumption that he is changing the vaccination schedule, right? Think about that. Just look at what the headline said, right? This is, once again, this is Media Manipulation 101. They tell you that he promised not to change the childhood vaccine schedule. He promised not to. They're not telling you he actually is. So just bear this all in mind as we're reading this out. You gotta love this, man. But on Tuesday, speaking for the first time to thousands of U.S. Health and Human Services Agency employees, he vowed to investigate the childhood vaccine schedule that prevents measles, polio, and other dangerous diseases. Right? But he didn't say anything about changing it, did he? He's just going to investigate this. And we'll get into the reason why I'm laughing at all of this. Nothing is going to be off limits, Kennedy said, adding that pesticides, food additives, microplastics, antidepressants, and the electromagnetic waves emitted by cell phones and microwaves also would be studied. Now, that last one, right? You're thinking, oh, God, here we go with this again, right? Conspiracy theorist. You got to love that, though. But, hey, it deserves to be investigated, don't it? Just because it's a conspiracy theory doesn't mean it doesn't deserve some investigation. That's all I'm going to say about that. All right? Because, once again, I'm not big on conspiracy theories all that much. But, however, if it makes sense, I might postulate on it for a little while. But let's keep going. Kennedy's remarks, which circulated on social media, were delivered during a welcome ceremony for the new health secretary at the agency's headquarters in Washington as a measles outbreak among mostly unvaccinated people raged in West Texas. The event was held after a weekend of mass firings of thousands of HHS employees. More dismissals are expected. You know they had to throw that in there, trying to jab at Trump. But, people, most conservatives, most people that pay attention to politics that are on the right, I guess if you even want to say that, because what is the right these days? What is the right? Because the left considers everything that's not cult far right. So, it's loosely defined in their eyes. I'll put it that way. So what is the right? A centrist can be far right if they hold certain views. It's absurd, y'all. In his comments Tuesday, Kennedy promised that a new Make America Healthy Again commission would investigate vaccines, pesticides, and antidepressants to see if they have contributed to a rise in chronic illness such as diabetes and obesity that have plagued the American public. The commission was formed last week in an executive order by Donald Trump immediately after Kennedy was sworn in as the president's new health secretary. So that's what it is. It's an investigation. He's not promising to change anything. So once again, y'all, these people, they try to manipulate you from the beginning, trying to insinuate that he's going to change this. Oh, he's anti-vax. He doesn't want these vaccines, so he's going to change the childhood schedule. There's currently an outbreak of measles in West Texas that's ravishing unvaccinated peoples. Got to throw that in there. Plus, he fired a bunch of people. That directive said the commission will be made up of cabinet members and other officials from the administration and will develop a strategy around children's health within the next 6 months. Kennedy said it will investigate issues including childhood vaccines that were formerly taboo or insufficiently scrutinized. While Kennedy did not directly call for changes to the vaccination schedule on Tuesday, his plan to investigate it raises questions about his commitment to Republican Senator Bill Cassidy, a Louisiana physician who harbored deep misgivings over the health secretary's anti-vaccine advocacy. Now, once again, I haven't seen every single video of RFK Jr. I haven't seen every single social media post that RFK Jr. has ever made. However, I've seen quite a bit because, once again, I dig into these things because when I hear a narrative from the corporate press, I usually try to investigate that narrative, and most of the time, I find that they're manipulating the crap out of it, if not outright lying. Right? I've seen RFK Jr. say he's not anti-vax, I don't know how many times, and he'll break it down as to why people think he's anti-vax. Right? So let's break that down right quick. This is a good point to break and just get this out on the table. There's a video of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. If I have it, I'll throw it up right now.
Nearly every scientific and medical organization, including the CDC, the FDA, the AMA, the American Academy of Pediatrics, all say you're wrong on this issue. This leads us to our very first question from our audience. It's Dr. Tariq Butt, who specializes...
I would ask you one thing. On what issue?
On childhood vaccines.
What about them?
And whether they ever cause autism or damage kids. They all say these vaccines have saved millions of lives.
They never damage kids.
I don't think anybody has said they never have. There might be a child here, but overall, all those organizations say vaccines are safe and have saved millions and millions of lives. But let's get to our audience question from Dr. Butts.
Good evening. Eradication of chickenpox and polio from the U.S. and...
Okay, so, I think most people don't know what my stance is on vaccines. I've never been anti-vaccine. And I've said that hundreds and hundreds of times, but it doesn't matter. Because that is a way of silencing me. Using that pejorative to describe me is a way of silencing or marginalizing me. My position on vaccines, I think, virtually every American would agree with my stance on vaccines, which is that vaccines should be tested like other medicines. They should be safety tested. And unfortunately, the vaccines are not safety tested. They're not. Of the 72 vaccine doses now mandated, essentially mandated, they're recommended, but they're really mandated for American children. None of them, not one, has ever been subject to a pre-licensing placebo-controlled trial.
Yes, they have.
No.
Yes, they have.
Okay, let me just say something. Dr. Fauci and many other people for many years said this, that Bobby Kennedy, when he says that, is wrong. So I met with Dr. Fauci in 2016, and I agreed to go on Trump's Vaccine Safety Commission, and I was with Aaron Siri and Lynn Redwood and a number of other people, and we said to him, can you show us one test from any vaccine, pre-licensing safety test? And he said, I'll send it to you. I can't find one now. He never did, so we sued him. Aaron Siri and I sued HHS. And after a year of litigation and stonewalling, they said that they could not provide a single safety study for any vaccine that is on the childhood schedule, pre-licensing safety study. So anybody who wants to read that can go to the Children's Health Defense website, and you can read HHS's admission that not a single one has ever been safety tested pre-licensing. Now,
that's all he wants. Let's see the safety tests. Let's see these tests that they did to prove that they're safe. Let's see what these studies showed that prove that they're safe. Let's see what are those side effects that they're supposed to be. And they could not pull up the evidence. That's all he says. Could not bring up that evidence. The safety tests, none of that. That's it. And everybody is railing against this guy as an anti-vaxxer. He's an anti-vaxxer. Now, he did come out, I will say, take a little bit of that back. He did come out hard against the Trump vaccination, if you will. We'll call it Trump vaccination. Operation Warp Speed, right? The COVID-19 vaccine, which, speaking of, by the way, just get this out on the table, because YouTube asks us to do this, and I respect it. Ask a doctor if you have any questions about any of this. Do not take some idiot's word for it. Right? Don't take a guy online. Don't take his word for it. Go out and ask your doctor. Make sure and ask an expert. Talk to them first. get their opinion. All I'm doing, I'm not telling you to take a vaccine or don't take a vaccine or this vaccine is bad. I'm not saying these vaccines are bad. I'm not saying they're good either. I'm not saying anything. I am just giving you the particulars of why they're calling him an anti-vaxxer. Hopefully, I made that really clear. Because I'm not an expert. I'm not a doctor. I do glass, right? I install glass for a living. If I want to speak upon that, I can speak upon that with expertise, if you will. Been doing that for 15 years now. So, and I complain on the internet for fun. Not for a living, by the way, which I would love to be able to do this for a living. That would be amazing. I could make more videos per day. I could do more in-depth research. Boy, I could be pretty good, I think. Personally, but that's just me. I am in my own head. I do have a couple of people rattling around in there. I do still have that guy in the background that types out everything I say, which he's a pretty fast typer if you ask me, but he could be a little bit more efficient, if you will. Let's keep going. Cassidy ultimately voted to send Kennedy's nomination to the Senate floor after he said Kennedy gave him assurances that he would not alter the federal vaccine schedule. On this topic, the science is good. The science is credible, Cassidy said during a Senate floor speech earlier this month, explaining his vote. Vaccines save lives. They are safe. Well, you know what I would have to say to that? If you haven't seen the safety tests, if you haven't seen the studies, you can't really say that with assuredness, can you? That's all I'm saying. Rigorous studies of thousands of people followed by decades of real-world use have proven the vaccines approved by the Food and Drug Administration for both children and adults safely and effectively prevent disease. That's all I'm going to say about that. Right? Once again, you can't say that if you haven't actually read and fully comprehended those studies. Cassidy said during his Senate speech last month that Kennedy has made a number of promises that stemmed from intense conversations to garner his support. Specifically, Cassidy said Kennedy would maintain the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices recommendations without changes. When contacted about Kennedy's remarks, Cassidy's office did not comment. Sorry for those little screw-ups, y'all. Kennedy gained a loyal following for his nonprofit by raising objections to COVID-19 protocols and doubts around the COVID-19 vaccine. Despite his work, Kennedy repeatedly told senators that he was not anti-vaccine during his confirmation hearings. Right, and he's not. Anti-vaccine would mean all of them, right? That's what I would think. Now, if you're anti a specific vaccine, then you can't really call somebody anti-vaccine. That's anti that vaccine. Right? Once again, though, I'll say it again, talk to a doctor. However, that vaccine was rushed. And, I do remember they did change the definition of vaccine. Dr. Paul Offit, I guess that's how that's pronounced, an infectious disease expert at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia who sits on a federal vaccine panel, didn't believe him. I think he will do everything he can to make vaccines less available and less affordable because he's an anti-vaccine activist. Offit, who developed the rotavirus vaccine that is on the CDC's childhood immunization schedule, said last week, right? Once again, that doesn't sound like an expert to me. If you ask me, that sounds like a very partisan hack that is just takes the corporate press narrative and runs with it. Doesn't have any idea if RFK Jr. is actually anti-vaccine, like all of them. Just sounds like a partisan hack, if you ask me. Kennedy promised staffers on Tuesday during his speech that he would keep an open mind in his new job and ask them to return the favor. A lot of times when I read these articles characterizing myself, I think I wouldn't want to work for that guy either, Kennedy said, eliciting some laughs from the crowd. Let's start a relationship by letting go of any preconceived perceptions you may have of me. And that would be a good idea for anybody and everybody to do. Now, that is the end of that article. And I would have to say that, once again, I have seen a lot of RFK Jr. I've seen a lot of him, and I wouldn't call him anti-vax. I would call him a skeptic We'll put it that way. He's a vaccine skeptic. Let's say that, because if you sue the government to see the safety tests for the vaccines and they don't show them to you, yeah, I think there's a problem there, right? They should want to show you those safety tests, right? Especially when they're getting sued to do this. They would want to show that. So, the fact remains that, yeah, sure, I took the childhood schedule, right? And look at me. I'm just an idiot that complains on the internet all the time. And, I install glass. Got cut pretty good by glass, too. I don't know if y'all can see that. I'm going to slice my arm off. And I still do it. Scary. Real scary. To be honest with you, I couldn't move my arm for a while. I had a whole brace and everything because I sliced some tendons. They had to go in and put everything back together. But I still got full use of my digits here. So it's not nearly as strong as it used to be. Scared the heck out of me, man. Crazy. It's something I'll never do again. I'll put it that way. I'll never do that again. I had a friend of mine. He was one of those people that are on and off the wagon constantly. And he came to me one day asking for a job. So I grew up with this guy. He was my best friend for years. So I couldn't turn him away. And he was trying to do better with his life. So I said, okay, we'll get you a job. Got him a job. And it was his fault that all this happened. It's absolutely his fault that all this happened. We were pulling out some glass to put new frames in. We got to pull the old glass out. And it was a big sheet, right? It was probably almost 5 foot wide and 7 foot tall. It's a pretty big sheet. And he's over here with a suction cup, those things you put on the glass and you pump it up. And you can pick up, I think they're rated for about 200 pounds. You can pick up a lot of weight with him. He's over here just yanking on this thing, and I see him doing this, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's a disaster waiting to happen. So I say, hang on, I'm coming. It's like the second I get over there, I put a cup on it, and I go to grab, and he just yanked on it. Boom, a big giant piece, big chunk, probably about 2 foot tall, 3 foot long, that kind of went from the 2 foot section all the way to a point. Came down and just right into my arm. Just hurt like crazy. I was out of work for a couple of weeks. Yeah, I went back to work, just working with one arm. I was doing repairs and stuff like that, just light tasks, simple stuff, but never do that again. But, getting back to this, enough of my life stories here. Getting back to this, the corporate press, they just run with that narrative without actually investigating if he really is or what he's even talking about, right? They try not to air this stuff. They try not to let you know that, hey, he's just a little bit skeptical over here. He just wants to see the safety tests, and that's it. He doesn't care about any of these other, partisan studies that may have happened. He wants to see the government's data on this, and nothing else will do. Well, now he's the head. He's the top health official in the country. So that's what he's doing. He promised to do that, make America healthy again. He's going to look at these and see those safety tests, if they even have them, which I'm sure they do, right? Once again, I'll say this just in case YouTube forgets what I said earlier. Talk to your doctor. I am not saying that none of these things are not safe. I'm just saying that we want to see the safety tests, and that's it. We want to know the dangers that these possibly pose, if they pose any dangers at all, right? There's always side effects to medicines. There's always side effects, and we need to know these side effects. I think that's a really reasonable position. And they smear him with these pejoratives and all this other nonsense. They just smear him into oblivion as anti-vax. He's a nut job. I mean, you heard that guy. He doesn't believe him at all. Hey, I personally, once again, like I said, I hear these narratives, so I look into it. And when I do, I usually find that I'm being manipulated by these people. That's why I have zero trust in the corporate press and the mainstream narrative machine, and that's why I call them the mainstream narrative machine, because that's what they do. They'll take facts and they'll twist it and push you in a certain direction. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all. right? And I know some people out there looking at you think that, oh, I just go and find information. Yeah, I know what confirmation bias is, and I know how to look for it, right? This is why, my guy, Mr. Sachs, this is why I read left-wing news. This is exactly why I don't read right-wing news hardly ever. Every once in a while I will. But that's only because there's no left-wing sources covering a certain topic that I just so happen to want to discuss, which it's exceedingly rare, and I always give a warning when I do read right-wing news. Always. You can guarantee I will. So everything I read is left-leaning news. Left-leaning news. But I think I've rambled on for long enough on this one, y'all. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think down in the comments section, because once again, I love hearing y'all's feedback. Sorry, trying to prevent a burp, and I just did. I don't know how that's even possible, but I prevented it. Sorry. But y'all let me know what y'all think. That's all I got on this one. I want to thank everybody for watching. Y'all don't forget to smash that like button and try to have a good day. Stay legitical and share this video. Peace.